Welcome again to another edition of the PH Factor. Here we are at Project Home. Really excited to have two great guests from two different organizations who are working together on an effort regarding naturally occurring affordable housing in our community and the importance of making sure that energy upgrades, sustainability can be done with that, and affordability for all of our community members, key pieces to this effort between Elevate and Sustain Dane. So we welcome in to the PH Factor, Claire Oleksiak and Abby Corso. Claire with Sustain Dane, the executive director, and Abby with Elevate Energy, who's the chief strategy officer. Welcome to you both to joining us here on the PH Factor today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So I'll have you each introduce your organizations real quick and give us the rundown so people understand what you do and what you're all about. And then we'll talk about this great partnership and project you have coming up.
Thank you so much, Jason. So Sustain Dane is a nonprofit here in Dane County, been around for about 20 years, and we focus to inspire, connect, and support individuals to accelerate sustainability for community well-being. And that's a mouthful, right? What does that mean, though? It means we look at that intersection of environmental health and then social well-being. So how are people and the environment working together and coming to benefits? And we've done a number of different projects throughout the year. We had a project called Empower, which is now Accelerate Sustainability Workshops that's focused on helping a lot of organizations and individuals get that sustainability knowledge and start their first projects. We've also done work in the schools. And right now we have a project with Elevate Energy that's focused on the affordable housing multifamily sector and increasing efficiency there and helping be a navigator for that sector.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks, Claire. So I am with Elevate Energy. We are also 20 years old, and we're a nonprofit organization. We have a national footprint. Most of our staff's in Chicago, and there are a number of us up here in Madison, Wisconsin. And we are really thrilled to be working with Sustain Dane on this naturally occurring affordable housing project. Elevate's mission is really focused on, creating equitable solutions to climate change that provide healthy, safe, and affordable homes for everyone. So we center our work on, reducing climate change in a very equitable way. Most of our work at Elevate is focused on communities that have been disinvested over the decades, really trying to improve the housing stock and in those communities, but also just the overall economic development in those communities. The project that we're working here with Sustain Dane, I believe will hopefully do just that.
Introduce us to the project, and then we'll get into the specifics of your vision for it and what you really hope the impact will be for our area.
So our project is focused on helping small to medium-sized multifamily housing become more efficient and resilient by reducing those operating costs to remain affordable. So in our area, we have a lot of, the 4 unit, the 8 units, these are the smaller multifamily that you see probably a lot as you're driving around, right? That haven't been able to take advantage and haven't been benefiting from some of the efficiency opportunities that are there. It's also a really important part of our affordable housing market. There's the people that live in houses, the workforce that's in these houses, reducing their energy burden and being able to make it more affordable to live there. So what we're looking at is kind of a need in, I'd say, 4 areas. One is the housing resilience, so that we have an affordable housing shortage. We need to keep building, but we also believe we have to be preserving and investing in our existing stock. We also are focused on equity. Research shows that for working families, like rent, utilities, transportation, utilities is one of the highest monthly expenses. And then in the climate change, affordable housing consumes on average about 33% more energy than market rate, because it's older, maybe, not as nice materials when it's constructed, it hasn't been upgraded, and there's deferred maintenance. So as we're addressing climate change, we have to address the built environment and have to address this part of it. And then lastly, it's access and trying to create a program, which is our program, where there is a navigator to help go from the beginning of understanding what the opportunities are, understanding what energy data looks like for a property, through the process of having the incentives, understanding what they are, applying for them, receiving them, because we know that people are limited on time, they're limited on resources, and they're also not, waking up every day thinking about this. So having a partner to work with them through the whole process. So Abby, your turn now.
All right. Well, I will build on that. And, to Claire's point, there is a lot of this naturally occurring affordable housing stock in Dane County. Approximately 50% of our stock is affordable, and we are in a county where we have a housing shortage and we have an affordable housing shortage. So trying to, protect and preserve the housing that we have, in addition to building new, is really important to being able to provide, safe and healthy housing for all the residents in Dane County. And just to speak to the program itself, the Navigator program, we're taking kind of best practices from across the country and picking and choosing from good programs and really taking the best and applying it here in a program design that not only will address the unit so that the residents living in the homes, making their units more efficient and hopefully more comfortable and healthier, but also, working with the building owners to reduce their operating costs in a way that will allow them to, maintain affordability in their buildings.
So before we go any further, how did this all start?
Gosh.
Well,
who's
With
responsible?
an introduction? With an introduction?
Yeah. Well, I relocated to Madison several years ago, and I'm passionate about housing, and I really wanted to work in the community where I live. And I started doing some interviews with owners. I was working with some folks up here, and we were trying to really understand what the owners' needs were and what the gaps were and why, some of the housing wasn't getting upgraded, made more efficient. And then we realized there was a real opportunity to work here and a real need. And Claire and I got introduced to each other, and we just kind of hit it off and said, our organizations are mission aligned, and we're really passionate about the work here in Dane County, and let's see how we work together. And it's been a great partnership from our standpoint, for sure.
You talked about this area. You talked about the building owners in particular. So what have been the things to stress to them? How did we get the building owners on board for an effort like this?
The program design that we're offering, it is very owner centric. So, contact us. We can do a complimentary energy assessment on their building. So really understand what the opportunities are. And then we really want to be like, we want to reduce the hassle. We want to be able to say, we'll help you find contractors. We'll help you access the focus on energy incentives. We'll make it as easy as possible for you as an owner to make your building more efficient. And we'll show you the numbers, and we'll show you the energy savings that could result in that as well.
That's fantastic. I mean, obviously you have to look at the total picture and recognize all of the people involved that can benefit and kind of speak to them and to the benefits that apply directly. I know obviously there's so many people that also want to provide, a good place and recognize the benefits for their residents, but having those added benefits and pointing those out to owners, I think, is vital. Claire, from your perspective, when Sustain Dane looked at how to reach, get this information out to the public, and then other organizations you needed to get involved, how important was that messaging for those organizations too?
So I think the first meeting that we held was really kind of the kickoff in an exciting way. There was, an email went out like, hey, we're going to get together. We want to start talking about this and making action happen. And I went out to a handful of people, and we show up, and that list had grown and grown and grown. We had to move rooms because the first room wasn't big enough to hold everyone. And I think that there is kind of an interest and an opportunity right now that people want to know what they can do, right, to be a part of the solution and want to make it happen. So I think it is really exciting that we have opportunities like this to share and let them know, like, hey, like it's now, it's happening. It's the partnership is available, because most people, I believe, right, would like are interested in making positive steps like this, but it's one of a very long list of items that is happening and being thought about. It needs to be addressed, right? So it's not necessarily I don't want to, it's more just there's other priorities that are also on my list. So just helping, as Abby said, make this navigation through an unknown process easy and seamless, and getting to that end point.
So I'm a resident and I know my building needs some upgrades. What do I do?
Well, a couple different things. One could be you could reach out to us and say, hey, this is where I live. I think my building could really benefit. Or start talking with, the owner as well. Let the owner know. Say, hey, did you know that this program's going on, right? The Efficiency Navigator is going on, and I'd like to be a part of it. So you could start at either point with a contact with us. Ultimately, it is the owner that will be able to say yes to improvements, right? So we will want to be talking with the owner, but either way for the resident. There's also some stuff that residents can look at for their own units. Like Focus on Energy can provide packs for reducing that energy load inside a unit. So getting some LED light bulbs, or some of those initial steps that you could do. But yeah, it's from either side, right? Either coming with us or starting with the land with a property owner.
I would also just say that whether the request comes from a resident or a building owner, we're happy to have a conversation with either and figure out a way forward. Maybe it's the resident really wants an access to a Focus on Energy kit, and Focus on Energy has been a fabulous partner. Like we're happy to make that happen. Or if it's an owner, we're happy to get out there and take a look at their building and look at the opportunities, or both, actually.
I mean, we can't talk about it enough, right? To get the word out, to get more people understanding about the opportunities and programs locally that can benefit them. Both of you have brought this up in the conversation, but I also know it's very prevalent on your website, and that is sustainability is determined. A key determining factor of that is equity. And so I would love to hear from you about your perspectives on the importance of equity to get us to be a fully sustainable community.
Our commitment at Elevate Energy, or at Elevate, actually, we're Elevate now, not Elevate Energy anymore, is to really, center equity in all of the work that we're doing. Internally, are working to be an anti-racist organization. So we are really looking at our internal operations and practices, and but externally, our mission, begs us to work in those communities that are disinvested, and to make sure that, all the work we're doing is basically uplifting Black and Brown organizations, disinvested communities, so that people's lives are better and people get the opportunity of efficiencies that they may not otherwise have.
Thank you, Abby. And Sustain Dane is aligned in very much in all those ways. I think what I think is important to add is a sustainable community is a community that has equity at the center of that. Without that, we're not going to be able to get to our ultimate vision, and what our work is focused on every day. And it's about the people, like we talked about. So, this work in particular, I think, is addressing some of the systemic inequities that we know exist in Madison. We know that home ownership has not been accessible to communities of color in large ways. There are more renters that are communities of color. We also know that when you're living in a building that has not been receiving the same number of maintenance, or is older, that you may have utility bills being higher as well. We're also aware that this work doesn't just happen to be equitable and we need to be thoughtful about it. So one of our key performance indicators is to be really intentional about where we're focusing on both our outreach and our partnerships, and that at least half of the residents that are in buildings receiving upgrades will be from communities of color. So we want to put a goal out there as well and make sure that it is something that we are checking ourselves on and being intentional about from there. So, just because we're working in an affordable housing sector doesn't mean we're also going to be addressing communities of color. And both of those are important, but we need to make sure that we are also looking at both aspects of that. And racial equity is part of the highest priority, one of the highest priorities for us.
That's fantastic. You're right too. I mean, they need to be both prevalent in your thinking and your thought process of making sure you can meet those goals. One thing that we've found over the years at Project Home, and I'm sure that you echo this, is that a person's environment at home, making that as good of a situation as it can be, really helps to kind of create that home base that then can propel them in other areas of their lives. And so that's why people can think about this, well, it's another project or it's project working on housing. What does that really mean? That's home to people. So that matters. And that's why I love the work you're doing and the initiative here to help so many renters and so many buildings in our community. So thank you for that.
And thank you to Project Home too. I mean, the work you've been doing in this area is so important for the community as well. And I love the ability for us to collaborate.
Is there anything else we need to let people know regarding the program, the process, or is it just reach out to Sustain Dane, start that conversation, reach out to Elevate, start that conversation, and find ways that you can move forward from there?
I would say check out our websites, and we have options on our website, so just connect with us via website or an Elevate's website. My contact information is there. Feel free and use my contact information and email me directly, and we'll get back with you. We're excited to work with with a lot of owners in Dane County.
And I would add to that, for those that are listening today, to share this with someone else. Maybe they're not an owner, but just make sure that this conversation is happening. How do we address affordable housing? How do we address climate change? How do we address equity? And thinking about those intersection points. And maybe in one of the programs that another nonprofit's doing, there's new ideas that could come out of just hearing about this partnership. So I would add that too.
Thank you both so much for all the work you're doing to help improve our community, make it more equitable, make it more sustainable. We really appreciate that. That's Abby Corso from Elevate, the Chief Strategy Officer, and Claire Oleksiak from Sustain Dane, the Executive Director. Take care, stay well. We'll be in touch soon and do some more good in our community. Thanks so much, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.